Welcome to Mediavania, where we talk all things pop culture. My name is Matt.
I'm Marty.
I'm Nick.
And today we have a special guest with us. We have Will with us here. Will, introduce yourself and tell everybody where they might know you from.
Right on. Yeah, I'm Will. I was one of the designers for the most recent edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill. I have had a few games on Kickstarter. I'm the designer of Astronauts, Fire for Light, some other stuff you've maybe heard about me from.
Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you for coming. I mean, it's a fun conversation. We're here to talk a little bit. We're coming off the heels of playing Elden Ring. Most of us have. Marty hasn't had a chance. Yeah, we're still playing it. Marty hasn't had a chance to play it yet, but always up to hang out for the discussion. Because overall, outside of Elden Ring, it just raises a good question of should games include an easy mode. And we brought Will on because Will kind of didn't really like more difficult games. Now, my history with them is I love Souls games. I love hard games and difficult games. I also enjoy the option of there being an easy, normal, and difficult. But as far as Dark Souls games, I've played Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro, and now I've actually finished Elden Ring. So, Nick, what's your history with these style of games?
I've loved FromSoft games. Even before Demon Souls, there was Kingsfield, right? So yep. I've been an old school fan of theirs. I think Sekiro is the only one I haven't beaten, but I've beaten Elden Ring 4 times now.
And how about you, Will?
So I have attempted Dark Souls 1 and, got maybe an hour or two into it. Put a little bit more love into Bloodborne when it came out because that setting slaps. Okay. And now I have reluctantly, due to Matt and Nick twisting my arm, played Elden Ring.
Yeah. And Marty, how about you?
So I played, like Will, just a little bit of Dark Souls. I love the setting of Bloodborne, but didn't get too much further than that. And then just realized, you know what? Games from From Software aren't necessarily for me, and that's okay.
That's okay. And that's absolutely okay. Not every game is for everybody. However, Marty, I'm going to ask you a question right off the top here. If Elden Ring had an easy mode, would it be for you? Would you play Elden Ring if it had an easy mode?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. However, I have no issue with it not having an easy mode if the developer says I wish not to. In fact, the game designer has a quote saying, and he says, "We are always looking to improve, but in our game specifically, hardship is what gives meaning to the experience. So it's not something we're willing to abandon at the moment. It's our identity. I appreciate that. I'll respect that. I will still try Elden Ring, but I do not expect them to cater to me if that's what their identity is."
Yeah. He goes on to say, I just want as many players as possible to experience the joy that comes from overcoming those hardships. And that's huge, especially in these style of games, because everyone is on the same level. Like every single person is playing the exact same game. So if Nick beats a boss, I can go to him and say, "Nick, did you beat Malenia?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did." And I spent 250 tries trying to beat Malenia, and it took forever. But once we finally both overcome that, we can say how we did it, and there is that shared experience there.
For sure. I would posit that Elden Ring actually does have variable difficulty, but it's not a quick and easy difficulty choice at the beginning of the game, right? You have the Spirit Ashes that you don't have to use. You have summons multiplayer that you don't have to use. And consumables actually are huge because most of the bosses and enemies have weakness to certain types. So if you get into the item crafting, you can prepare for and make a lot of fights easier. But that's very specific, right? You're already kind of into the game before you start learning about the systems. It's not. I'm not launching into the game and I have that menu at the very beginning saying easy, medium, hard.
Yeah. Now, Will, let's hear your story a little bit, because I know that at one point in time you didn't like these games either. So tell us, recently, the past couple of weeks, your story on Elden Ring and From Software games.
Sure. So this conversation between the two of us, Matt, began in a Twitter feud.
It did.
And I won't say that my sticking point is not the difficulty. I think that's something that I want to be upfront on, and it's my resistance to the From Software, genre, the Soulsborne genre. Is I don't necessarily think that it's an issue of difficulty. I think it's an issue. My issue is one of clarity in like the way that Soulsborne games keep information from you. I think that it's not ideal for me. I'm pretty sure that if Marty and I sat down for a couple hours and like talked about what all the things that he thinks makes it difficult, I think that there would be some of that in there as well. Am I right, Marty?
Yeah, probably so. Yes.
Yeah. They're not easily accessible, right?
No, they're not. And that's my biggest issue with these kinds of games. So much so that I've had conversations even about the accessibility of games like Breath of the Wild, right? Like Breath of the Wild is an absolutely stunning game that does a pretty poor job of explaining to you where to go and what to do. Mm-hmm. And so this Twitter feud that we had was about like where is this line, right? Like there are some people who learn by doing, right? They have the contextual learning skill and they just want to be thrown into the game and do it. But not a lot of people are like that. And so the original, when we talked about this, I had not played Elden Ring, and I don't want to say like adamantly against playing Elden Ring, but it was like so far down my like list of things that I wanted to play, because I don't find joy in the kind of game that's just like drop you in and
sure.
And hey, figure it out. But since then, the four of us had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and Matt and Nick's passion about this, I was like, all right, like, I've spent $60 on worse games, so like let's do it. Let's figure it out. And I'm 15 hours in now. Last time I checked. And on Friday, I sent Matt one of those like, hey, passionate texts of like, I beat Margit finally.
Yeah, like the main like first boss in the game, right? Like that you really come across that's like a required boss to progress through the story. And, honestly, probably your real first super difficult test.
Yeah. I had died a few times before that, that I chalk up to like learning the behaviors and the mobs and stuff like that. There's a particular encampment in front of the Storm whatever gateway.
Oh, the Stormveil Gate.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm chomping through these dudes super easy, and then there's one dude who's got a bigger shield, and I kited him, and I was like, oh wait, my attack didn't do half of his life in damage. What's this about? And then he just skewered me, right? So like, the classic Soulsborne experience.
Yeah, and go, circling back just a little bit on what you were saying about our Twitter conversation. I know the big thing was, I was trying to express the idea that dying in this game is just like a mechanic of the game, and you get like real life experience from it. Like even though you're dying nonstop throughout, it's like if you can kind of subside that frustration and just understand that this game's going to kill you over and over again, you will eventually get by it. Like this game is hard, but it's not impossible, right? Like you'll overcome everything as you work through it. But to part of the other side of the conversation was, but that's just not fun for me. Like the dying is not an enjoyable part of any kind of video game for me. And to my extent, like I get that, like I totally understand. However, I'm just saying if you can push through that, there is some amazing feelings on after that. Like for instance, I don't know how many times you fought Margit, but when you finally finished, I mean, it felt pretty good, right?
So I died to Margit 9 times.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put a pin in the what did you feel after you beat Margit, because I'm gonna circle back to that, and it's gonna be my thesis of the day.
Okay, we'll come back to that then.
But to address your point of like dying is part of the game, I played the crap out of Hades, man. Like I love roguelikes. I can't tell you how many hundreds of hours I put into like Slay the Spire and stuff like that, where dying is part of the mechanic. And admittedly, I think Elden Ring was a lot more forgiving in context than I thought it was. Of like, you still keep your items and stuff, and it's just the experience essentially that you're losing, which is both good and bad, but I don't have an issue with that. The dying is fine, right? Like I learn from it. You were absolutely right. Like I go into a mob and I kill half the guys and then I die and figure out, oh, okay, I should have been farther away, or I should have used this other ability or this other item or what have you.
Yeah, Elden Ring is a tough love parent, right? You don't get punished for the first mistake. You don't lose your runes until you die the second time for making the same mistake, right? And that also kind of encourages you to be a little bit smarter. You're like, okay, well, there's a site of grace right here. Let me just grind for a second and spend all those runes. So you have to kind of treat those resources. You have to make sure you're managing your resources, and it's a lot of risk versus reward judgment.
And even though I haven't played Elden Ring, I most recently finished Metroid Dread, and I know it's not on the scale of difficulty.
It's a pretty hard game.
Metroid Dread is tough, and while playing Metroid Dread, Marty, I was even talking to Nick, like, this is a very Souls-like feeling game, just due to the bosses, because it's the same patterns over and over, and you're just learning them and then getting through them eventually. But yeah, go on, Marty.
Yeah, so, okay, that's good to know. Here, I'm going to say this. I will be playing Elden Ring. It's on my list. I just have other things that pop up before it. I promise you I will play it, because everybody has said, if this is the one Souls game you need to try if you haven't played many of them. All right, so Metroid Dread. I can understand where people is like, you know what, like y'all said, I don't like getting to a boss. There's 3 levels to a boss. Die. Got through first level. Die. Oh, there's the second level. Get to first level. Die. Okay, now I understand how to do the second level. Okay, third level. I get the frustration behind that, and I even got some frustration too. And I know you're going to circle back to this, Will, but it was when I finally beat that final boss, I was on cloud 9. It was so euphoric. I could just feel the endorphins just going through my body. It's like, I did it. I was patting myself on the back, and it's really. I was watching my son. He's playing Metroid Dread right now. He's going through it. And he was streaming it last night, and he got to the boss Crate, which is a very early boss. And he died a few times, and he never got frustrated. It's like, okay, die. Okay, now I'll see what do. Okay, now I'll see what do. Okay, here's the second level. Okay, that wasn't too bad. It's just when you're in that mindset, and I guess you guys were the same way. You didn't get so frustrated you threw the controller across the room. You knew what experience you were going to be having, and you rolled with it, and you had a really good time.
There is one fight that almost made me throw my controller across the room, though.
I mean, yeah, it is. James messaged me, because he's playing it and he's on Millennia right now, and he's like, "Dude, I'm hitting my head against the wall, Millennia."
Did you tell him Bloodhound Step is the bomb?
He's already been using it. Like he's tried every trick in the book, and that just
did he play magic?
He did. He's done both. He's like magic.
No. The one thing that spams all the skulls. Her poison you can keep her permanent stun locked.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how what he ended up doing. He was magic at one point, switched to the River of Blood katana, switched back. But the point is, he played it a ton of times. It took him a couple days. He's like, I can't. I don't know if I can do it. I was like, you absolutely are going to be able to do it. You're getting there. You'll figure out. And this morning, he's like, I finally got her, and sent me a picture of the death screen. And I was like. I'm like, best feeling in games. Like that's it. It took forever, but a lot of people wouldn't have overcome that hill. And it also goes to show, like, you can play this game like any way you want. Like if you want to go rune farm, you basically, do follow every guide in the book. You can go online, and I recommend playing this way, actually, is like, look up a guide. It'll tell you exactly where to go, because at the end of the day, you still have to beat the bosses. Like, that guide's not going to hold your hand while it like kills the boss for you. You still have to like acquire the skills to beat the boss. So you can get as much help as you want up until the point when you actually have to, put your skills to the test. And I think that's really awesome about it. So now he's only got a couple bosses to go. He's going to beat it. And this is his first From Software style, like really difficult game. So
is the audience watching this going, I don't know who this James guy that you're talking about, but it's a friend of ours playing the game.
It's a friend of ours. Yeah. James Hudson. You may know him. I mean, James Hudson, who Druid City Games.
World famous James Hudson.
Yes, exactly. He's been one. I've been chatting with him nonstop ever since he's been playing it. Again, another outreach, which the conversation around these kind of games when they come out is as fun as the game itself. I think knowing where Nick is, knowing where Will is. Will beat that boss and sent me a text. James beat Millennium and sent me a text. I have a little subgroup chat that's just Elden Ring that's talking about what best weapons and loadouts and there are, and it's like, that's always super fun to do.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a subgroup over at WizKids too. Like we split off and just had an Elden Ring discussion.
Yeah.
And that's we had that quote earlier. That's the experience that From Software is wanting to give its gamers, and that's the experience the gamers expect to get.
Yeah. So, go on, Nick. Will, did you have something?
Yeah. I this is where I'm going to circle back to my
for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a little tangent. Matt, do you like In-N-Out?
Do I like what?
In-N-Out, the restaurant, the fast food chain, In-N-Out.
I'm from New York. I have never had In-N-Out. It is a West Coast thing. I have never had In-N-Out. I have Five Guys. Five Guys is fantastic.
Okay, so In-N-Out has this thing where on their menu there's like hamburger, cheeseburger, fries, and that's it, right? Yeah. And they're very famous because they have this like
secret menu,
secret menu, right?
Yeah, I've heard of the secret menu.
Okay. I hate the secret menu, and I'm going to tell you why. When I go into a fast food restaurant, just tell me what's on the menu, man. Like, just tell me what to order, right? I don't want to know some secret conversation. I don't want to know some hidden menu or anything like that. Just tell me what you have. You want to be a good business? I have to know what money to give you, right?
Sure.
This is the same way that I feel about Soulsborne's now that I have played Elden Ring, is just tell me what to do. Like, just tell me. Don't make me like look up a guide for everything.
Sure.
I don't feel like that's super productive or like worth my time. And that's kind of how I felt after I beat Margit, is like in that moment when I beat her, I was excited and sent you that text like, hell yeah, great, I did it. And then I was like, man, I spent like 15 hours grinding to get through the first boss. Like, I'm like level 50 something. I was like, I don't think this was worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I get the feeling that I'm supposed to have of like, man, it was really tough. And I did it, and I learned all of these tactics and how to dodge roll away from the throwing knives and how to dodge roll away from the big glowy hammer attack. I get it, but I was like, in 15 hours, I could have finished some other games. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and that's where it all comes back to, like, at the end of the day, if you're not having fun with the thing, it's like we live in an age where there's so much media. It's like, enjoy what you enjoy, right?
For sure.
Elden Ring for me is such an open world that it's like, I just want to spend time in it. I want to explore it. I want to and I know Nick felt the same way. Mm-hmm. However, again, if you're putting all that time into it and it's still not fulfilling you, I mean, man, you gave it a shot. And you beat the boss. You got 15 hours in, you leveled, you grinded up to 50. And if you're still looking at it like, man, this isn't for me, I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you like gave it a shot, but now, right?
I think that I agree 100% with Marty, is that this isn't for me. And I'm cool with that. To address the like question that you posed at the beginning of the episode, is should all games have in easy mode? The answer is no, I don't think so. I probably wouldn't have enjoyed this as much if it were just breezing right through. And one of the things that we talk about in video games, in board games and stuff, is like you being true to the vision. And if the vision of this game is to have that difficulty and have that like precision focus of what this game wants to be, that's cool. Like you said, there's so many other games out there. Do I regret my 15 hours? No. Did I love it? No. Am I about to go play Tunic and put Elden Ring behind me? Oh, 100p. 100p.
Tunic looks awesome. Tunic. I just downloaded Tunic myself.
So that's it. So that you're kind of, you've experienced everything you wanted to with Elden Ring, and you're kind of done.
Yeah, and I'm cool with that. And it's very rare that I replay games that aren't like the BioWare style, like get different endings. I'm not going to say that I won't ever go back to Elden Ring. If I get that bug for like a super punishing thing and I have the time of like not going through other things, I might go back.
You have that option now. It's there. Like if you ever want to go back and explore again, you absolutely can. And that's
Elden
awesome
Ring
that you
does
came back around.
Several distinct endings too.
Nick,
does it?
Did you have any final thoughts here, Nick, on the topic?
No, I think we covered it, and I think we all kind of have that consensus that no, not all games need to have an easy mode, but it does ask that question about accessibility too. I think all games should at least have a basic on ramp, and you can make a strong argument that FromSoft games do not have that. There's like a stair, and then you have to jump over a ledge, and then there's the rest of the stairs, right?
For sure. How about you, Marty? Any last thoughts?
I'll just say this. Will has now inspired me to, if he wasn't into Souls games, I'm going to go play, and I will at least get through the first boss like he did. You've inspired me, Will. I'm going to at least grind through that first boss to have that experience to see, okay, was it like you? It's like, it wasn't worth it. Or was it like, these other two guys? It's like, oh yeah, I got to keep going now. So
stay tuned for Marty's live playthrough of Elden Ring.
While we all backseat drive.
We are going to do that. Well, everyone, thank you for watching and tuning in and talking about our conversation today. Please like, subscribe, ring the little bell for when we got new videos out. We really appreciate it. Will Sobel, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us. We will most surely invite you back at some point in time, and especially if you beat another boss, let us know.
I will.
My text is waiting for you. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me on.
Isn't that far away?
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great night. Until next time. Cheers.